in many ways, what we're doing at the Kalavan Retreat Center is a social experiment in more ways than one. And where I think probably the biggest one is cohabitation. Human beings living together in harmony, even when it's not necessarily easy to, or everybody doesn't necessarily know by default how we're best going to get along, share a space, share resources. And really, that's the whole problem of human civilization and all of human history, right? How do we exist on the same planet together without getting in each other's way, without feeling like something's being done unfairly to us, without one person taking another's resources or property, right? And well, for one thing, there's obviously a hierarchy here because it's my house, right? Definitively, right? Legally, morally, no ambiguity there, right? And so there's certain responsibilities that come with it being my house, which of course I have agreed to take on by bringing people to live in my house. But in most other cases, when there's stuff that needs to be done that affects everyone here, there's not necessarily an easy answer to how that stuff is going to get done. It is easy if we happen to have a beneficial, harmonious mix of people with complementary skills and preferences. Both of those things matter, ability and preference, right? Because it's possible to be good at something and not enjoy doing it. Actually, I have a lot of those. There are a lot of things I'm good at that I don't like doing. Or the opposite, you might like it but not be particularly good at it, right? And so both of those matter. If there's one person in a house of 8 who really loves cooking and cleaning, then that person can work in the kitchen every day if they want, and for the benefit of everyone else, right? Because they're clearly best suited to do that, and they don't mind doing it. They love doing it. It might even be recreational for them to do it, right? Whereas for another person, even if they know how to cook and could put together a good meal, they're going to hate every moment of it and do everything they can to avoid it, right? If you have a house of 8 people who all share that same temperament and ability level, then you start to wonder, wait, how are we going to eat, right? Or who's responsible for cleaning these areas or organizing these things or whatever, right? So spontaneous order, spontaneous self-organization does happen under the right circumstances. But at a certain point, if it doesn't happen, you have to start to consciously reflect on, well, wait, how should this get done? Because clearly we all agree it's not getting done to a good enough degree, not just because I said so and it's my house, but like we all agree this is affecting all of us. We would all prefer it to be cleaner or neater or for food to be ready on time or whatever. So can we, as conscious, rational, reasonable, ethical human beings, come up with a solution to this without there being some kind of authoritarian oversight and force? You have to do this. This is your job. Now you spend 10 hours in the coal mines today, or there's no coal mine here. It would be useful if there was, because we burn coal. So if we had a coal mine, we could get our own coal. And a lot of it just comes down to who minds it the least, because sometimes there are tasks that nobody particularly enjoys, but one person will vehemently hate and resent everyone for, and other people are like, yeah, I don't want to do it, but I don't mind it, right? So since at the present time, some of those things are not happening on their own spontaneously, because you just don't have the right mix of people to just naturally do them without even thinking about it, organizing anything. Now we have to start to consciously organize these things. Like, okay, who's going to be in charge of sweeping the corridor? Who wants that job, right? Who would mind it the least? It's easiest when there are certain particular skill sets that you know someone has developed and even identified themselves as. So like frequently, if something small breaks or needs to be adjusted or fixed, even if it's something I know I probably could do, because I've lived in this house long enough to know how most of the stuff in it works, often I will just kind of automatically say, oh, Amir will fix that. Amir will take care of that. Not as some kind of like hierarchical structure, like Amir has to do this because I refuse to. It's his job to serve me. But rather just because I know Amir almost certainly will be better at it and also enjoy it more, right? But I only know that because Amir has identified himself that way. Someone who's proficient at mechanical things and fixing things and welding and building and metalworking and woodworking and all that stuff. So even if it's something I could do, unless it'd be like just really easy and convenient for me to do it right there, I'll probably just say, oh, Amir will take care of that later. I don't need to think about it, because that's one of the roles he has taken on. He's identified himself that way. There are many things I've identified myself as being proficient at offering it to everyone else. Among them are things like English teaching, like I'm constantly correcting everyone's English, whether or not they want me to. because it's just obvious. Like I'm the best suited person to do that. And also I tend to enjoy it. Other people might like really, really hate having to do something like that if there were an assigned job for that, but because I'm good at it and I enjoy it, yeah, just automatic. If anyone has a grammar question, an English question, they know who to come to because that's how I've identified myself, right? And so if people have not entered that state of self-identification where they say, well, here are the areas I'm proficient and passionate about, then it might be harder to say, well, who should be doing this? Who's the obvious choice? I don't know. We don't have an assigned character for this particular type of thing here. Somebody shows up and he says, I love cooking. I'm a natural chef. I'm passionate about baking and sauteing things. And we say, okay, well, go, chef, do it. Do what you do, right? But if we don't know what you do, then it's like, well, you know, you're a generalist still, which is not necessarily bad. It's not an insult. It's just it makes it harder to automatically identify what you could and should be doing. Unless things just happen to align within our spontaneously shifting community, because people are frequently coming and going. Sometimes people stay for a long time. Sometimes people come back. Unless things just happen to work out where everybody's skills and inclinations are very complementary, everybody has to be a little bit flexible, a little bit open-minded. Okay, normally I wouldn't do that, but I see it needs to be done. And oh, I don't really know how to do that, but I guess maybe I should start learning. Right? Like somebody said the other day, they were cooking in the kitchen on the stove and the stove wasn't working. And I said, well, why don't you just cook it in the oven? She said, well, I've never cooked anything in the oven before. I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, seems like a perfectly good opportunity for you to learn, right? Like, why not? Because then now you'll know how to use an oven, right? So like you can't just stay stuck in, well, this is how I've always done it. This is what I know how to do. Unless you have some like strong moral reason not to do something, right? Like you just have to, especially in a rural village setting, almost always something is not going to be working or some resource will run out. The other day, both our electric stove broke and we ran out of gas. The gas stove, like just at the same time, just bad luck, right? We didn't have enough redundancies in place, which I guess is my responsibility, sorry. And so like, okay, what else can we do? We have an oven, we can light a bonfire, burn things over a wood fire or something, right? You just find the best way to get it done within the resources you have, but that only works if you're flexible, if you're open-minded and you're willing to learn new things. And if you are, many of the people who stayed here said they learned new skills being here, just out of necessity. Not because they came here with the intent to learn to be a good cook or learn to do this or that. Things had to be done, so they had to learn how to do it. I mean, me 5 years ago when I bought this house, I didn't know anything about construction or homesteading or gardening or, you know, I have a completely different mindset now. Not that I'm a master in any of these things, but like I've just acclimated to what's required to live in this kind of setting, as most people who stay here for a long time end up doing. And a lot of it is just a mindset shift. It's like, you know, all of us know how to use a broom, at least adequately, right? But if you don't think it's your job to sweep the hallway, then you'll say, okay, well, this hallway's getting pretty dirty. I sure hope someone sweeps it soon, right? So if there is no person assigned for that particular task who has willingly embraced it, then you should just say, well, you know, it'll just take me 5 minutes. I'll just sweep it myself right now. Why not? Right? Because otherwise everything has to be assigned and enforced. Right? If people aren't willing to be flexible and adaptable, then somebody has to be the mean dad of the house. Kids who didn't do your chores, and I certainly don't want to do that. Right? So I guess that would be my responsibility if that has to happen. But I just think it's much better if we can organically grow and adapt to what needs to be done, and it's not a terribly unpleasant experience for anyone involved.